We're here for Indie Talk, and I'm joined today by the wonderful Tim Hawkins. Hi, Tim. How you doing?
Good, thanks, Gary. How are you?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Just want to run through a few questions, man. You know, you're one of the premier indie actors here in Adelaide. You're very well respected, and you've got a very wide skill set. You know, understanding sound and lighting as well as acting and production. And I just thought you'd have a unique perspective on the industry and being an actor within it. So, what sort of made you want to be an actor?
I don't think anything made me really. I don't think anything really made me want to be an actor. I think I don't. It's just this feeling. It's just this. I've always grown up. I've always been into performing arts, and I got into acting young as a primary school kid, and then through high school as well, and then when I left school, I got involved in bands, playing on stage in bands, and some amateur theatre stuff as well. And then getting involved with lighting and sound and that, and finding I can make a living out of that, and I had a young family, so I had to find a way to pay the bills, and acting wasn't going to do it, and playing in bands wasn't either. So it was like lighting and sound and production, facilitating production equipment, for various productions around Adelaide, live productions, and some film work. And then when just years went by, and mortgage was getting paid, and kids were growing up, and things turned my way, and I thought I could get back into some acting and get back into doing what I really love.
So what is it you actually enjoy about acting?
The feeling of not having to think about anything else. When you're in that zone as a character, there is nothing else in the world. And you could have all the problems in the world going on in the background, but when you're acting a character, that's all you are. You aren't Tim Hawkins anymore. You aren't that guy that's got bills that he's got to pay, and he's not that guy anymore. So you're detaching from yourself in a way, which it's kind of an escapism, really, I guess. But really, that's kind of it,
It's a separation kind of thing from a reality.
Yeah, it's just separating myself from my life, and just being able to be creative and do this, play this character, play this person, be this person. And I've got to concern myself with what his issues are in that story, so I can't be involved in what my issues are. In fact, they don't even come into it. It's you just detach yourself from it completely, and I think that's probably the attraction to performing.
Yep. Would you say, do you have a preference for, again, like feature-length projects or episodic series projects? What do you really like to get involved in?
Really, to be honest, I mean, anything I can get myself into that's got a good, well-written script. It doesn't really matter to me if it's a feature-length film or if it's a TV series, but I tell you, TV series or short series, web series, etc., are a lot of fun. I mean, you're spending a lot of time playing that character, so you can hone the character really, really well. A lot of feature films where you're playing, you might only get a one day on set, and you might only have 3 scenes for that character in a film, and so you might only spend 1 or 2 days on set. You can't really. It's more difficult. I'd say it's more difficult in that situation than being in a TV series, because you do get to immerse yourself in that character for a lot longer if it's a series. Whereas a film, it's short. It's a short burst.
I guess you get to hone that character over a period while you're developing through the story, and as the arc of that character develops, you improve your understanding of the character. So I can see that being.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's about you want to hone that character and have that character as you want that character to be right throughout the whole series, say, before you start. But there are character arcs within the story so things may change, and so you've got to be on the ball. You've got to be ready for this to appear to it's all about appearances, and it's got to appear to sit right as that character arc works. But when you're doing a film or a feature-length film, or and you're only on set for 1 or 2 or 3 days at the most, because you've got a fairly substantial support role or something like that, it is more difficult. I'd say it's more difficult you've really got to nail it straight away, and you've got to get it, and it's got to be done in that 3 days, and that character has got to be consistent on that story arc or that character arc from go to woe. And that's pretty tricky. That can be tricky. So you've got to do a lot of preparation work for that. And with TV series, you do the prep work, but there is the understanding that that character is going to develop through the series, if he is a major character or a recurring support. But,
yeah. Talent or training? What do you think is more important for an actor?
Talent or training? Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a question I do hear a fair bit, but I mean, look, the thing is, the training's great, and I haven't, it'd be great to be able to do more, but I don't know. For me, I've done a small amount of training, but I've seen people that have trained a lot that still haven't really quite got an understanding of the philosophy and the psychology of acting, and really that's where it's a headspace thing. And I think there's you kind of got to have it, and when you've got it, I think it makes the training a lot easier to grasp, and I think the training becomes it's more understandable. If you've got some talent. But I think if you haven't got the talent, you could train for years and years and years, and like there are singers that have had singing lessons their entire lives and still can't hold a note. I mean, there are people that may really want to do something, and they just may not be able to. They may not have the natural talent for it, and I think there is a certain amount of natural talent in one way or another.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I've got a huge amount of natural talent either, but I haven't done a huge amount of training. So
I guess both are important, in their own perspectives, But like you say, if there isn't an underlying basis of raw talent, the training may be, something that doesn't actually, progress you in your abilities.
Yeah, that's right. I think the training can open up doors for you for things that you may not have considered. You might have the talent as an actor, but it'll also open up doors for you in the psychology of acting as well, and working out the best ways to approach a character, and it's different each time, and so if you've done some training, there may be. And like I said, I've only done a small amount of training, but the training I've done, there's always stuff you take away from there that you will keep and go, that worked, I get that. And there will be a lot of stuff that you just won't. And I think that's what training is all about. I mean, it's all about, learn as much as you can about this, and then take on board what you think you need to do what you need to do. And, you take it all on board, you'd just be confused.
Then what would you say from your perspective what is the most valuable skill to have as an actor?
Yeah, that's a really hard question, Gary. I just think the ability to understand people. And I mean, I know a lot of actors, and we all are guilty of observation of people. We watch people all the time, and I think the talent might be in understanding where that person's coming from without even really knowing that person, just by body language or the way they carry themselves or something like that. And so you might be able to work out how to portray that person, for example, it's the skill is in, I think it's in breaking down the character, working out what this character is really about, you know, and if you can do that, you know, and then portray it, then, you know, basically I think that's where it's at.
Have you had a favourite production or role that you've had that what would have been your favourite?
Well, so far, I've played some interesting characters, but, you know, Warpath Chronicle, you know, I played Arethias in that, and it's a fairly major part, and I was a big part of that whole production, and that was a lot of fun. I worked on a film about 5 or 6 years ago up in Queensland called Patched. That was a proof of concept short film that is still in the works to be made into a feature film. Worked with some higher profile actors in that, and had a ball. I was up there for 2 weeks on that set, and that was pretty good fun. A favourite memory of filmmaking. Warpath Chronicles, another one. But there's a lot of characters and films I've been in over the years that I've just really enjoyed playing that person, even if it was only for three days. Like the guy I play in this slasher, punk slasher horror thing that Dick Dale has made, that'll be out later this year, called Rib Spreader. And I play a crazy character in that. I mean, this thing is kind of tongue-in-cheek slasher, so the characters are larger than life, you know. Mm-hmm. You're not really playing it straight. It's a bit more comedic, you know.
What do you think makes a role challenging? The
more difficult roles are the roles that are further away from who you really are, because even though, like I said before, you want to forget who Tim Hawkins is, and you don't want to. That's the beautiful thing about performance is you forget all that stuff, your real life stuff, and you just get into this character. But having said that, getting to that question is there are always elements of you in a character, and the more difficult characters are the characters that there are less of those elements in you, you know. Although, having said that, again, you know, I like playing bad guys and murderers, and I've never murdered anyone yet.
Do you have a specific acting technique that you use when you approach a role?
No, I think I approach every role differently. That's the thing. I think I really look at the character. I take note of the backstory if there's a backstory, a synopsis, all that's very important. If there's no backstory, I imagine what this guy's backstory could be, and I'll work from that. And that's how I do it. But it's always different for every role. The way I do a role, I mean, I'm fairly casual about it. It's I don't stress over that stuff. It's not the sort of thing I stress. I'll stress if I can't remember that damn line. And I've remembered pages of stuff, but there's this one line in there somewhere that I just keep forgetting that line. And that, you know, that can be really nerving, you know, like unnerving, you know.
You wouldn't have a specific technique. I mean, we hear a lot said about method acting, and you don't necessarily have a specific technique like that method.
No, and that's the thing. I've always described that as people go, what are you, a method actor or a character actor? And I play characters, but I find a method to get to every character, and it'll be one way or another. But it may vary. It may never be the same way. You know, like if you're playing a drug dealer, for example. You know, like you've got to really think outside of normal everyday life of what you're doing, and go, okay, today I've got to be a drug dealer, you know. And it's like, okay, so you got to start thinking about how a drug dealer will think, and you know, and what sort of person might it take to be a drug dealer, right? So that's going to really affect how this character behaves. And so they're all the things that I look at anyway, that I think are important to look at. I'm not here to give anyone lessons in anything. It's just, this is all just how I approach this stuff, you know.
What do you think makes a performance most believable?
You know, like the performance has got to be as natural as it possibly can. I mean, you know, there's the old saying is, you know, like about acting is, you know, whatever you do, don't act. You know, they'll pick it every time. But, you know, so you are acting, I mean, but there's acting, we do it every day in our life. You know, like, Joe Blow is a different guy at home than he is at work when he's with the boss. It's different. He's actually acting. He's actually playing the part of Joe at work, working for the boss. You know, like there's very few people that are 100% themselves when they're at work. You know, and especially, you know, like compared to that person when he's at home, you know, having his breakfast. You know, like it's going to be a completely different Joe, and so that's how I see that.
Speaking of different people, how do you think you'd approach a scene when you don't necessarily get along with your scene partner?
Wow. It depends on the scene and how many scenes are in with this person. I mean, if it's a sort of scene where they're fired up at each other and they're arguing and they don't like each other or something, it might work. I don't think I've actually ever had that situation happen to me. I haven't felt it. I may have caused someone else to feel that, but I've never felt that. That'd be pretty tough, I reckon, especially if you had to play a role where you did get along and you know, like, because you'd both be wanting to try and make it work. So there comes a point where you have to put your personal issues aside.
Yeah.
Again, you got to get away from who you are and be these people. And so
I guess it would be difficult where you had a scenario where the characters had a chemistry, but you don't feel that chemistry outside of the scene. You know, that would be very hard to generate artificially, I'd say.
Yeah, that's right. And it is about the chemistry too. But you've got to be able to create that chemistry, you know, for the scene. That's what you're there to do. And really, all you're doing is, if you don't do that, is you're defeating the purpose of being a performance actor, because you're letting something stand in the way of you getting to where you want to be to perform. And you've got to consider that other person is going to feel like that as well. You know, so I'd say you've probably got to try and be pretty forgiving of people on set and who they are and how they are when you're working with them as an actor. You've got to just basically, we're actors and that's what we've got to be today, and we've got to be these people, and that's it. And I guess most good actors would be trying to do that.
Dialogue being a big part of any storytelling. Have you ever had to use a different accent for a role?
Yeah. Arethias in Warpath Chronicle used an English accent. I couldn't really tell you what type of English accent it was. It was kind of one it just felt comfortable for me. It was something that sounded English that I could recreate in any mood Arethias was in, or any situation that Arethias was in. So if he was raising his voice or he's talking quietly, if he's angry, if he's sad, you want the accent to be consistent. So you got to find an accent. I just call it an English accent, but it was just an English accent that works for me. That I can cover that whole range of emotions and all of that carry all that dialogue using that accent. My favourite is that piece that we filmed here, a year and a half ago, where I played the Slavic, the Eastern European guy, the kidnapper guy. That was a good accent. I liked that. I'd like to do more of that. Mm-hmm. You know, Eastern European accents would be really good fun. South African accents, a lot of fun, and you know. I wouldn't mind doing something like that in a film as well.
What do you say is the most challenging aspect of being an indie film actor?
Of being an indie film actor?
Yeah. What's the most challenging part of being involved in the independent film industry?
Yeah, be careful. You called it an industry. I mean, industry sort of says, you know, like there's money involved. We're talking indie filmmaking here. I mean, no, probably the most difficult part about working in indie films, for me, is it's not all the time. It's just not all the time. You know, there's years where, like, I think it was 2015, I worked in 16 films and a couple of film clips for bands as well, and then the following year I worked in, you know, probably 8 or 10, and then the year after that I can't remember, and then it got to, you know, there's years where during COVID and all the rest of it where I did nothing, you know, like there was a band film clip in the second year of COVID, and I don't think I did anything in the first year at all. There was a short film, $1,100 that I played in that second year of COVID as well. That's all I did that year, was a band film clip in that one short film. The years before, it wasn't as busy as it was, but in 2015, 16, I did a lot of films, but there was a lot of films happening at that time, and there kind of hasn't been as many since then, especially now since COVID. But that's coming back. There's you know, hopefully we'll see more, and you know, and hopefully some of these films can actually get past that dead end of, you know, like being not distributed anywhere, and, you know, being in films that are getting into festivals and winning awards. I mean, The Body that I played a part in a couple of years ago, that did the festival circuit, and it did 105 festivals and received, or 102 festivals and got 105 awards or something like that. Just crazy. And that's good, you know, and that needs to happen more. And so that film will get distributed, it'll be put on Blu-ray, and, you know, people will be able to buy it, and it means that it was, the whole creation was realised at the end of the day. The whole thing was realised, it happened, you know, and it finished, and people could obtain it and keep it forever, and it's there forever. And it's not just gone away in some dead end with a pile of other unfortunate short films have ended up, because they haven't had the distribution, you know, or the funding to put them into festivals to be known, you know, because that's the thing. If they get into festivals, they get known, they get talked about, and it creates more of a buzz, you know, and then that film can be more successful. And that's frustrating, because there's a lot of films you're involved in that not much happens with.
You spoke a moment ago about the slowdown in the indie scene over the last couple of years. Going forward from here, though, do you have any upcoming projects that you might be able to share a little bit of information about? Maybe something that you're coming up soon?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are things that will be coming out later this year that I've already worked on, like Warpath Chronicle and Rib Spreader, and a couple of other things. A band film clip for the Hoverchords, local band here. I did a film clip for them at the beginning of this year. That'll be coming out next month. I think they're releasing that. But then I've got a short series I'm working on with the production company Creative Human Productions. You know it.
Yeah, I do.
And that's a really interesting, gritty, dystopian, in the not too distant future, after some major events have happened on the planet. One being a virus, and that's going to be a really fun project to work on, and I think it'll make some pretty good viewing. And it's got everything in it, and it's got some action, and it's heavy drama. It's got action, and it's got science fiction in there, and it's a dystopian world. I mean, what can go wrong? You know.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with everybody who's watching, Tim?
Sorry?
Anything else you want to share with everybody who's watching?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, we think we've covered some pretty good topics. I'd say if anyone's wants to get into acting and isn't sure about it, I'd just say, you know, the thing is with any art is you've got to follow that dream, but along the way you've got to jump at the opportunities. That's, you know, it's paramount. You've actually got to jump at all the opportunities that you get, and it might divert your path towards your ultimate dream at the end. But the fact of the matter is there's really no pot of gold at the end of any of this. It's, if you're not enjoying the journey, then you're wasting your time. You know, like it's there's no big payoff at the end. You know, sure, you might get some films every year where you make some money, and that's great, but there's no giant reward at the end. There's no if people are doing it for the glory, it's just don't. You know, there's really not that much glory in it. It's hard. You've really got to push yourself, and you've got to really want to do it. And it can't be to be rich and famous. I mean, you know, who doesn't want to be rich and famous? But it's not what it's about. It's about, you know, like, if you want to be an actor, you don't want to be an actor for the money. You know, you just want to be an actor. And so yeah, that's about it. That's about it for me. That's my advice to anyone if they want to be an actor, is they better really want to be one, because otherwise they're torturing themselves.
Tim, thanks very much for your time. Very much appreciated.
No, it's good. Thanks, Gary.
This has been Indie Talk with the great Tim Hawkins. Stay tuned for our next episode, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, man.